Mr. Clerk, let's begin with a roll call, and then we will go to the emergency announcement.
Birchfield. Here. Burkhalter. Here. Carver. Here. Farmer. Here. French. Here. Gamble. Here. Helton. Kirby. Here. Lambert. Here. Lael.
Here.
You have 9 present and 1 absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you. And John, could we play the emergency evacuation
Before we get
announcement?
started, let me read the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you have reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
Thank you. And each of you should have an agenda in front of you there, and I would entertain a motion to set the agenda for this meeting. So moved by Ms. Lambert, second by Mr. Carver. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Ayes would have it. Third item of business is the approval of minutes of October 17, 2013. I would entertain a motion for the approval of those minutes. Mr. French made the motion and Mr. Gamble seconded it. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Thank you. Today's item on the agenda is the public hearing, and would ask now if there's anyone in the audience who has input on this particular item. Yeah. Seeing no hands or no one wishing to speak to this public hearing, I would now ask Mr. Garrett to conduct the public hearing for the off-premises beer permit application at 3108 Ralph Phelps Road, Louisville. Mr. Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will now open the public hearing on the application for OHM 8090 Food and Lottery, Inc. And is there a representative of that business present? Would you please come to the podium?
Okay, that would be which
and would
one?
You raise your right hand and take the oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the answers or information that you provide to this board tonight will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Sure, sir, I will.
Sir, what is your name?
Umang Patel.
And Mr. Patel, in your application, you are the sole owner of the applicant, this corporation, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And this is for an off-premises
Yes, sir.
license, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the location is at a convenience mart at 3108 Ralph Phelps Road in Louisville, Tennessee.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Is all the information and the statistics that is set forth in your application true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, sir.
And according to the survey that you have provided, there is no church or school within 2,000 feet or no personal residence within 300 feet.
No, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Do any members of the beer board have any questions or comments for Mr. Patel?
Yes, sir. I have a couple of questions. Just recently, we had some issues with selling to underage consumers. Do you have any kind of a training program or anything that you utilize with your operators to prevent this from happening?
It won't happen, sir. I already take the all the things and everything or something. We will check the ID before we sell the beer or anything. That's for sure.
But my question is there a program or is there something that you all specifically do to ensure that that ID is checked, that those things are verified and so forth?
I didn't take a program. I don't have any certificate that I have. I don't have it, sir. But I am fully prepared for that or something, that whoever comes over here for the beer, definitely I'm going to check the IDs and everything. Without ID, I'm not going to sell it, that's for sure.
Exactly. Now, will you be employing operators other than yourself to?
No, sir.
You will be the
Yes, sir.
operator?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. And obviously, in the past, that you've had no record of, have you operated a business of this nature before?
Well, I did have actually something. I did operate a one convenience store, which is a Lakeshore Shell, and I was operating the same thing too. And I was operating since last 5 years, and I didn't have any problem like that. Well, my focus is on something, just check the ID. If it is under 21, no beer for them. But first, make sure something they have to have ID if they want to purchase a beer. That's for sure, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And are you I was a little confused at the application. Are you the owner completely? You're not part of a umbrella company or any franchise?
No,
or
sir. No.
You are an independent?
Yes, sir.
Operating owner?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else on the board have any questions for Mr. Patel? I'll ask. I don't think,
I just would like to advise Mr. Patel that you said that if people looked around age 21 that you would check their ID. The state law now then is any beer sale, you must check ID regardless if they're 95 years old coming in with an oxygen tank.
Yes, sir.
Just want to make sure you're aware of that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
anyone else? I'm compelled to ask, I don't think anyone in the audience was here to ask any question, but is there anyone in the audience that has any input, have any questions or comments on this application? All right, Mr. Chairman, then we will close the public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Patel.
Thank you, sir.
and
Appreciate
would
it.
suggest to the board that the legal requirements for the county beer ordinance and state law appear to be in order for this applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. You've heard the evidence presented here and the recommendations of our county attorney. I would now entertain a motion for action. Okay, Mr. French with the motion to approve, Mr. Burkhalter with the second. Would like to then take a vote. Those in favor, would you respond by saying aye? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we would consider that the approval has been granted for this beer license. We will have to, Ms. Rhonda will pass around a license to be signed, and we'll need the signatures of the members of this board on it before we give that to you. Okay. We now move to the part of the agenda, public input on items not on the agenda. Okay, I have one item that I would like to bring up tonight, and y'all elected me chairman, and I'm paying you back here. But as you recall in my questioning, I asked because of some recent incidents we've had with selling to underage that occurred toward the 1st of October. I would like to request to members of this board that once these are adjudicated, and if they are indeed found guilty, that the people and members the folks who were operating these businesses be called before this board to give testimony as to what steps or processes or procedures that they are now employing to see that that doesn't happen again. In my opinion, selling to minors is a serious problem, and I think this board needs to be affirmative in their position by having them present a program, either their training, their process, their screening, whatever, to see that it doesn't happen again. But I would like for you all to think about this at this point, and if we come back together again, I don't think, if you're not sure or don't want to make a decision tonight on that, because it will take some time and so forth, and I'm not sure when the cases come up, so y'all think about that, or we'll go ahead and make that a process that anyone who is caught has to appear before this board or vacate their license. If you care to make that motion. Okay, that this board meet after the cases have been adjudicated for selling to minors, and those found guilty must appear before this board or immediately vacate their license.
That's the motion I wish to make.
Thank you, ma'am. Do I have a second to that? Second by Mr. Gamble. Any discussion?
Yes. Go ahead, Gary, you had your light first.
Mr. Farmer?
I guess, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to amend on this in that we discuss this before this board at the next regular scheduled meeting and come up with, in essence, a policy to forward to the full commission for its approval.
Okay. That's an amendment. Do I hear a second to that? Is that Mr. Kirby with a second? Okay, first we will vote on the amendment, unless there is discussion. Yeah. Mr. French?
I guess my only question, and before we vote, is a question for Mr. Garrett. Is that within our purview to be able to do that, Mr. Garrett? Are we, as a beer board, can we do that? I guess that is my question.
Yes, I think you can, for the license holder to come before this board, you know, and what you need to understand, sometimes the offender is an employee, you know, as opposed to the actual license holder. Most of the time, I think it actually is. Now, in Mr. Patel's case, he said he doesn't have employees who'll be doing it all, but most of the time. But it's certainly within your prerogative to have members or license holders come before this board, because you have the authority, you know, when events like that, violations of the law take place, to take action if you so choose. Action, you know, up to and including some kind of a suspension or revocation of the beer permit. So I think it's certainly within your power to have those folks, you know, when they're identified with a criminal conviction like that, to come before the board.
In further discussion on that, as an explanation, I take this as a very serious matter. This, we have a lot of places that, and hopefully not as many maybe as it has been, but there's certainly the opportunity for sale to underage minors in this county. And I know the Sheriff's Department conducts occasional stings. There is, you know, all kinds of law enforcement steps, and I think this board taking that kind of action is in support of that, and also adds a little bit more of a sting to it, so that it would emphasize the fact that we are not in any way, fashion condoning the sale to underage consumers.
In essence, that was the point for my amendment, is to come up with something, Mr. Lael, for our next meeting, and all of us get our heads together, because, you know, just to come up with it immediately right now, I would prefer we discuss this at length at our next meeting, have Mr. Garrett look over it before it goes to the full commission for a vote. That was why I requested to amend.
Okay, if you will remember what I had, as I made my remarks earlier on this, that I expressed that as an option, either to take some action now or to put together a thought process and bring it to the next meeting in order to make it happen. So that certainly works within, will that work within your motion, ma'am?
Oh, it's a great one.
Yeah. And Mr. Gamble, will you, as a seconder of the previous motion, will you accept that as part of it? Okay. All right, then the motion, yes, sir. Mr. Kirby?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've been having our meetings only when there's been a request for a beer permit. Are we going to have a special call meeting and do this, or are we going to wait till we get another beer permit and then handle it at that time?
That's an excellent point. I would leave that to the body to make that decision. If you want to have a special call meeting for that, I would entertain that as a motion. I think that needs to be a group decision.
So what you want to do is have a special call meeting just for that one thing before an agenda meeting,
That would work.
and we just discuss that one item.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The next,
I'll make, let's handle this and then I'll make that motion.
okay, that sounds good. The next agenda meeting will obviously be, what, the first Tuesday in December, second Tuesday? What, anybody got a date handy right off the bat? So you can be thinking about that. We need to take the first vote, though, before we actually get to that. You can look up the date while I take this vote. Well, the original motion, makers' original motion agree to your amendment, so we don't have to look at them separately. Okay. Yeah, the next agenda meeting is December 10th, and if you want to add that to the original motion, that being that this board look into the process of developing a policy and take that up on December the 10th, we'll cover it all in one fell swoop.
December. Okay, December the 10th?
Yes, sir.
Before the agenda meeting?
Before
and who's going to come up, Mr. Garrett, or who's going to come up with it?
We can invite Mr. Garrett to come at that point, and
I could either come or send you just a short memo as to kind of what your options would be if you brought
Okay.
somebody before, or I'll be glad to come if you need me to.
All right, you and our chairman, you take care of that, Chairman Lael?
yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
I will be in communication with you.
December
Mr. Garrett.
10th before agenda meeting at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the motion before us is that we meet at that time to establish a policy of bringing forth before this board owners, et cetera, of businesses that have been adjudicated guilty, is that properly said? Or whatever, who have been found guilty of selling underage and develop a policy for handling that. It will be, Mr. Garrett will give us our options, and we will have that meeting on December the 10th at 6 o'clock. Mr. Kirby.
One more question. Does Mr. Crawford need to be some input on that, because he's pretty sharp on that beer board rules and regulations?
Okay, we'll
Okay.
coordinate amongst us there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So all in favor of that, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you all very much. And last item on the agenda would be the adjournment. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one more item.
Okay, Mr. French, you're recognized.
If we're going to call a special meeting to talk about this, I'd like to add something also to the agenda for that meeting for Mr. Garrett to possibly come up with. If you recall, several years ago, we had a nonprofit organization that wanted to conduct a money-raising affair to raise money, and they did want to sell, I believe, beer and wine at this particular fundraiser. It's a one-time-a-year event, and we at that time touched on this, but we never did really come up with anything concrete about it. And they were requesting if there was a way they could do this without paying the full price for a beer permit for one day. And I'm wondering if we could put on that agenda, if Mr. Garrett could come up with some kind of policy on how we could conduct that, if it would be within our jurisdiction to say, okay, it's a one-time event. They can pay $25 or whatever. If we could do that for nonprofit organizations for a one-time event for a fundraiser, could we come up with some kind of policy regarding, that particular set of situations?
Yeah.
We can do that. I mean, we can talk about, I know we did touch on it, and we actually, I don't know how we accommodated those people.
I think we ended up charging them the full price at that time, and we did tell them that we were going to look into that at a future date. I don't think we have done that, but this gives us a perfect opportunity to address that situation also.
Mr. Clerk and I will talk about that when
Okay.
we put our heads together.
Sure. Thank you, Mr.
And
Chairman.
since this action, should we proceed with the policy here involving that previous question that we were talking about, since it would have to go to the commission for final approval, just as the one-day permit would have to go for final approval, that'd be a good time to take care of two birds with one stone, so. No, we'll just do them both at the same time. Okay. Yeah, well, we wouldn't be able to designate it as special call because we got two items. Okay. Any other comments or so forth? And again, I sort of hesitate bringing up extra work for everybody, but it's something I just feel like we need to look at. So thank you all for being here. If there are no objections, we stand adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Garrett.